So I think I took, how many were at yesterday's talk? Many of you. So you already know that I'm an imposter. I never took a photo workshop. I'm a geologist, and I started traveling. But I was a photographer before I started traveling. It was the Red Rocks of Utah. We can lower the house lights whenever. That got me into it. Now, the problem with being a traveling photographer is there's people who think, it's the best job in the world, and that you're always just taking pictures on vacation. But I'm working. This is in Iceland, not Iceland, no, where is that? What's that island down south? New Zealand. But I was there working, looking for photos and leading a group, and I did a 3-week trip on my own scouting. It was just in Baja California. Have you guys, I showed the pictures yesterday, have been down to Baja California to see the whales and dolphins it's not that far to go, and there's more. You've been to Cabo though, I bet.
Yes.
Right? Now, I'm here, we got to talk a little bit more about equipment today, but having a camera that you can put underwater is a great thing. And this is the new Sony, is it RX103 or something? It's got a 1-inch sensor. I swear, at 800 ISO, it's cleaner than the Canon 5D Mark III. And you can get a Nauticam housing for it with a little dome port that you can put on wet. So you can actually, if you're a diver, you can go from macro to fisheye underwater, which I think is pretty cool. So you can do these kind of no-look things, so I'm not really seeing what the camera's taking there. But as you know, I'm shooting a lot. I'm looking to tell stories, but I'm looking for the single image that can make you want to go places. And don't look at that one in the middle, because if you saw the flying penguin yesterday, it was against clouds. So I don't do those. I do not alter my pictures, but marketing does. So that was, I showed you the flight yesterday up in Greenland. And so these are the type of things you're looking to show when you're doing it on the commercial side. And I wanted to show you, I didn't show this to you yesterday so that you'd come today. When we set up this shot with the ship, when we had that, the iceberg is real. It's gone now though. It probably melted or fell over. One thing I say in there is that I'm shooting, so we just had a question. You guys are coming out on the trip tomorrow night. What lens do you bring? What's my standard answer? Bring the arsenal. That covers me. Do I really need my tripod? Well, do you love your tripod? Those things. So having a wide angle, shooting things wide with lots of room, I'm thinking about the printed page. I'm only shooting half and half so they can put it down the gutter, and there's Sven up there, and so they can use it as a 2-page spread. Of course, the sky wasn't white. That's all done in post. So the type of shots that you're looking for when you're traveling, your best, if you're going to show people your shots from a trip, you're only going to show them the best 1 or 2 shots from whatever situation you have. Have you ever been invited over to someone's house and they went to Africa, and you really can't see it, but there's a leopard in the grass, and then it came out, and here it is again, and here it is again, and so edit your work. That's the other key to being a better photographer, is only show your best photos, right? So I wanted to show you some shots from New Zealand. So this isn't all ship stuff today. Self-portrait in the forest. I just love the tree ferns in New Zealand. And then I really got into black and white down there too. I was doing a lot of black and white conversions of these as well. But the ferns down there are just, it's like Middle Earth from The Hobbit. Well, they filmed it down there. And then there's all these cars driving, these caravans of cars, and they're stopping. If you're on the side of the road, it's like, what's this where it was filmed? Everyone's kind of in there. There's field guides about it. This blue mushroom, actually it was the receptionist at the hotel says, when you go out to Lake Matheson, look for the blue mushrooms. And there they were. And so this is actually a macro, a close-up with a wide angle. This is a 16mm lens. The camera's laying on the floor of the forest, and then I've got those little those LED lights now that are so amazing. And you can buy them at, what's that store? B&H. And now they have it so you can even attenuate the color temperature. And so I'm playing with that, throwing a little extra light in on the mushroom. This is the only, I carried my macro lens around the entire time, and it's the only shot I took with it. I actually prefer now to do macro photography with a point and shoot camera, which we affectionately call now in the business the aim and create. Right? And I have to credit, I think, Mike Nolan and C.T. Ticknor for that one. But being a geologist, you look at the guidebooks and they say, oh, New Zealand, it's all just like sandstone. They have no idea. There's incredible caves there. It's basically like the San Andreas fault system exposed in an island system. Because there's a huge fault there, as you know, there's big earthquakes. So this is a limestone cave system that has been breached by a river. You get a lot of weather, and you got to be ready for the weather. So here's when, and I'm going to show you a lot of starbursts. It's too cliche, never do them. Use f/22, it's not a filter. You know about f/22 and stopping it down, and the more expensive lens you buy, you hear that, B&H, more expensive lens. So the better lens is the f/2.8, like the 16 to 35. I always talk in Canon language. It makes, different lenses have different starburst signatures. Mount Cook. Now, this, just so that you know that these are being cropped on the top. It's not, the screen is not full frame, apparently. And then this river, oh my God, this was Middle Earth. It had been raining. This is over in Milford Sound, driving down after you've gone through the tunnel. And there's this bridge where you can stop. And so, what's my shutter speed? Yeah, it's slow. It's probably like 2 seconds here, I bet. And then I went back, when I brought the group, I said, we got to stop at this river. And it was a trickle. It didn't look anything like this. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Should have been here last week. So I really got into the streams and the rocks and the green against the blue. And then there was another cave that we went into where the glowworms are, and had someone pose there into the cave systems. And I'm not a caver. I get kind of claustrophobic. And I thought, I've been into some of those commercial caves where have the steps and the lights. There was one little string that you were supposed to follow, and you follow the group, and there's nothing prepared for you. So you were squeezing through. So that was fun. And then there was a typhoon that hit the Solomon Islands, and we heard it was coming, and the waves came. We got some rain, and it hit the North Island. That was all on the South Island. And then there's this place I kept hearing about, Kaikoura, where you can go out in a boat and see these albatross. This is a wandering albatross, and I showed you pictures from South Georgia where they nest. So they come up to New Zealand to feed in this one area, and they were used to fishing boats, and now they run photography trips out there, and there was no one to go. And so I chartered the little boat and went out with this guy, Gary. And so this is a wandering albatross that's coming up thinking you're a fishing boat, checking you out, again with a wide angle lens. And then there are these crazy dusky dolphins down there, and there's a submarine. It's like the Monterey Bay of New Zealand. There's a submarine canyon, so these dusky dolphins live there. There's 2,000 of them, and they feed at night, and then they like to play with people. And this one just fell in love with me. I wonder if it's going to run. There we go. This is the first time I ever got seasick snorkeling, because these guys are running circles around you. She stayed with me for 15 minutes until they were beeping the horn on the boat because you're supposed to come back, and she swam circles around me, and then she gave me that look. So landscapes. I started out, I told you I trained myself as a photographer with 4x5 shooting landscapes, and I could afford to take 10 shots a week with a tilt view camera. And so I learned from Michael Melford that foreground is important. Learned from Bob Chris that moment is important. Now every other year, and starting to be every year, I lead photo trip down the Grand Canyon. It's not associated with any groups. It's just the Grand Canyon is my photographic and geologic roots. And we do these ore trips, and we go down for 2 weeks. If you want to unplug from the world, you go into the Grand Canyon for 2 weeks. After 6 days, you still have 9 days left of your trip. You start having dreams about your childhood that you've never thought about before in these ore-powered rafts. It's mostly calm water, punctuated by sheer terror. Rapids in the Grand Canyon are on a scale to 1 to 10. There's 10 rapids that are rated 10. And there's 150 named rapids. It's almost too exciting. So that was fast shutter speed, so here's slow shutter speed. The problem with shooting slow shutter speed on these bright days is that you can't get your ISO down low enough. You put it down to 50, and then it's f/22, and then you still sometimes will need to either put on a polarizer that can cut 2 stops, or even have a neutral density filter that'll cut the light. But then you're at f/22, and you see every dust spot on your sensor. Still, the dirty little secret in digital is dust spots. You look for them, you'll see them. And especially, you get f/22, you're getting more depth of field. More depth of field shows your dust spots. It's gotten better since we have those little cleaners and things. But you can see that you got to protect your equipment from the water. But the scale of the place, getting down into the canyon. Has anyone been to the Grand Canyon? Have you walked in? Have you gone down the river? And you're still here. You do. You see God a number of times, but you also see the God light. This is Marble Canyon. Then the trip builds because the biggest rapid, the most fearsome rapid, is right at the end of the trip. So there's above lava and below lava, and the dance of the light. And so when you do it as a photo expedition, you eat early and stay out late. And this is the thing. There's so many things that we can do in digital now. These long time exposures, shooting in the dark, seeing the results, doing it again. So a 30-second exposure with moonlight and stars of the rafts. So this is the gear that you would bring on a trip like this. You've got to protect your gear. So we have Pelican cases. The guides just hate them. They call them, "Where's your birdie case?" And we tie them in because you're getting in and out of your case all day long. You can have your camera out when it's clean water or dry water or smooth water. Dry water, that was good. Just seeing if you're listening. So everything, my life is in this case. In fact, if you see me go to the airport tomorrow or whenever I leave, I've got a rolling bag. And I'm using my Pelican case. It's got a lid organizer there, and I've got basically all my cameras, a GoPro, and I'll show you more GoPro footage. Now, there's nothing to digital. Remember, you know how easy digital is compared to film, right? That's the charging station. So you got to bring a lot of batteries and store all your pictures. We use wet bags. So this might be more than you want to know about, but this is real outdoor photography. This isn't that luxury cruise stuff where we do a good wet too. We do use our tripods. Is Ken here? Yeah. That's you, man. Is that me? That's you. That's a veteran. Yeah, so it's good to have a bag you can get in and out of quickly. That's one of the sling bags. I don't know which, Tamarack or something. And having a tripod is key if you want to shoot it's great to have a tripod because, of course, it steadies your camera. You can shoot slow shutter speeds. The more important thing is it slows you down. You start thinking about the images you're going to take. Because one of the creative drawbacks of digital is, yes, you can shoot unlimited number of photos, but you're not, and I believe you're not taking the care that you used to when every time you went, you're spending money, right? So I love slow shutter speeds. Waterfall, so there's a lot of water in the canyon. Shooting on the go. And then, black and white conversion to the same place. That's North Canyon. See, Michael Melford signed up for the trip in 2016, so we're not going to any of these places. Just kidding, Michael. If you go early in the season, April, you get flowers. And again, think about it now. How much gear do you really want to carry anymore? When you get to be Bob's age, he was telling me 5 years ago, I'm carrying this heavy tripod. It's like, well, I got to have a heavy tripod. I got all these cameras, and he's like with this nice little light 3-pound tripod. Guess what I have now? Light little 3-pound tripod. if you carry your tripod, you'll use it. See, so isn't that a great way to shoot a waterfall on a vertical? That's our guide, and he was like, he could climb up anything. So that's if you're going to do it in the Grand Canyon. But you might go to, you may not go down the river, but you might go to Iguazu Falls. Has anyone been there? One of the most beautiful waterfalls. Did you feel it? The euphoria from the negative ions that release chemicals in your brain? It's like, you go there and it's like you feel like you've fallen in love again. And it's true. This is true stuff. This is science. And so you can go in these zodiacs, and you're nuts to go on these boats. Look at that waterfall. You got to be crazy. So they take you out there in these zodiacs, and I'm like, the trip is only 15 minutes. I'm like, what? But look what they do to you. How many have been to Hawaii in February? The whales there. You go to Lahaina. I shouldn't tell you all this because it's really kind of calm right now there. No, it's a very big tourist destination. But those humpbacks that go to Alaska, the feed, go to Hawaii to mate and compete for females. The researchers say that when the researchers are talking about the whales, it's like they're talking about an animal from another planet. They sing, they don't know why. They migrate, we sort of know why, but why do they come back to the same place? Well, it's paradise. This whale almost landed on our boat. When you got a whale against the sky, you're close. It was too close. There was whale skin in the boat, sloughed whale skin. It left about a foot of water from the splash. So these whales, they're down there, and so they're studying them, and the males are competitive. And the way the researchers talk about it is the females, there's only one thing that a female hates more than being chased by 5 big males, and that is not being chased. Because as soon as the males stop, that's when she starts doing all the flipper flapping. And so, the first time I was there, the whales, there's something called being mugged, and you're not allowed to get in the water with the whales without a research permit, but you can use your GoPro. And he goes, these whales are really close. And so this is not with a GoPro, this is with a housing. They're right under our boat. I'm gonna go down there's something called Whale Tales, and it's a fundraising event for the researchers. And the next one, Sven was there this year, I was there last year, gave a talk, and I'm gonna be there next year. And all the whale watching events are for raising money, and it'll be in February. It's a great vacation. So travel and photography go together, and a lot of times I'm giving this talk to folks that haven't gone around the world or haven't seen my show yesterday. But it's real easy traveling with all your gear. I have to read this to you. Laptop, USB, iPod, earbuds, iPad, thumb drives, portable scanner, smartphone charger, all packed, ready for a vacation to completely away from civilization. That's the way I feel. So these are the type of the folks that are traveling now. He's got the big guns, but he's got his aim and create, point and shoot, and he's got his iPhone. I can only say iPhone in my contract. I cannot say smartphone or that other S phone, even though the screens for the iPhone are made by that S company. It's important to look good, right, when you're in these places, and dressed right. So if you're going to a cold place, the key to being able to photograph in all this different weather, being outdoors, is being ready. Because some of your best images are going to come from when storms are clearing. Look at this guy. He's a heart surgeon from California, open heart. He does open heart surgery, and remember, photography, like golf, you are in the moment. You're forgetting. So it is a therapeutic type of, very expensive therapeutic type of exercise. And he had everything. And he wore this vest everywhere, dinner, everything. Or he can be a kid, with a GoPro, and he just got that camera. If you don't want to carry the big gear, get these super zooms. Some of them are amazing. They go down to 2.8. They have Zeiss lenses. They zoom from 24 millimeters to 1200. And if you understand shutter speeds, the reason why you don't get good shots at 1200 is because you can't hold it still enough, really, right? So you've got to be able to, play with your ISO and everything. But that's amazing. You can do amazing work in Africa with just one camera, or your iPhone, right? So think about that. There are shots where the best thing is just to pull out your iPhone or do the panoramics with your iPhone. Now, when you are traveling, you know, there's many different modes of travel, and this is the way we do it on the ships. We've got the Zodiacs. There's no one best place to stand. You want to change where you stand, where you do things. If you go on these trips, you want to, again, wherever it is you're going, you got to know what you're doing, and there's wet landings. You might love to kayak and make pictures, but it's a water sport, so you need a dry bag or a camera that you can, in a little housing or something. And if you love to snorkel, just get a housing or one of these cameras that you can take underwater with you. A GoPro is not, and I'll talk more about GoPros, but they're not good for still pictures going click, click, click. They're best for video and time lapse. So if you were going to go up to Alaska, I mean, that's a reasonable destination to go. You want boots, you know, you want to be ready for the weather. You want to know how to increase your ISO. These guys love their boots. And when that weather's clearing, you don't want to go to a rainforest and have it sunny. Dappled light is the hardest light to shoot in for nature photography. So you want some weather. You want cloudy conditions. You guys see the bears? So this one spot where the bears come. I showed you some pictures yesterday from there. The blue ice. You know, and you've got to take your, you know, white balance. This whole thing about white balance and color temperature now has become a creative control. Before we chose film based on its white balance, and Velvia was very punchy, had a lot of contrast. Now it's a creative control. So if you leave your camera on auto, it's trying to balance out all the blue. So it might suck the blue right out of your pictures if you keep it in auto. So you want to at least maybe put it in daylight. Even the flash mode makes nice blues. Baja California, again, you're not going far, but now you're thinking about you're shooting whales and dolphins. You want to know how to do fast shutter speeds. You know, for landscapes, you want depth of field. So we've got humpbacks down there as well. Shooting with lots of depth of field on a tripod, f/22. Where you focus is important, not on the farthest point, not on the closest point, but like a third out. You know, you're approximating that, you know, the optics of your lenses, where you put your focal point. Shoot it different ways, shooting blurry on purpose. I don't do well in heat and humidity, but Costa Rica is amazing. But there's these tropical expectations because you see all these full frame pictures of toucans and macaws, and most of those pictures are made usually at the lodge near the bird feeder, believe it or not. So you go out into the forest on this nature walk, and it's like, well, yeah, there's a scarlet macaw, you know, on the top of the trees, and it's dappled light, or there's a toucan. So you're dealing with where you want to be in the diffuse light. Autofocus. How do you autofocus through leaves to hit the bird behind? Use a single point focus, you know. And so I'm usually on a single point focus. I thumb focus so I can release. When I press the shutter, the camera's not trying to focus. So however you do that, Mark Thiessen, a National Geographic photographer, he turns the lens focusing system on and off on the lens. He'll focus, turn it off on the lens, then turn it back on when he wants to focus again. You can use the focus lock. There's all these distracting backgrounds and condensation. You ever have that happen to you? You got your camera sitting in your room next to the air conditioner, and you go outside and it fogs up. The cheaper the lens, the more they fog up. They're not sealed as well, right? B&H did not tell me to say that. So you want to keep your cameras or let them warm up. So you see the bird? So you either got to pick situations that work or overexpose the background, let it go white so you can see the toucans. Dappled light on a sloth. You know, so you hope, you know, that's the shot. I mean, there's the sloth, but there was a day where it was cloudy with a baby. And this is 1600 ISO, 420 millimeters. This is when I still had my 300 2.8 and a 1.4. So I was shooting prime lens then. That was like 3 years ago. I'm all zooms now, pretty much. And you have to use a fast shutter speed to freeze a sloth.
Yes.
Right? Galapagos. Clean, you know, it's the same thing, you know, but Galapagos, the animals are there. There's no excuse for not getting at least one good picture, right? But taking it to the next level, getting down low, watching your backgrounds. If, you know, on the left, that's your first picture ever of a blue-footed booby, and then you delete that one later because you start finding them in nicer situations with better backgrounds. Sea lions, the tortoises. Getting down low, getting eye to eye with your subjects is very important. Wearing knee pads. Look at this guy. Is that you, Bob? It's a nice beard. Underwater housing, we've talked about all that. So what camera should you buy? I mean, you walk into B&H and you ask them that question, what camera should I buy? There's so many choices. How much do you want to spend? What do you want to carry? What are you going to do with your pictures? Those are all the question, but it's the right camera for you. I talked about the super zooms. There's the iPhones. I know someone yesterday bought a new 70D. Shoot short video clips. iPads, the one reason for using an iPad to make pictures, there was a gentleman who didn't have good eyesight, and that's the way he saw the world, through his iPad, which was, I thought, very cool. Look at that. That's a retro cover for an iPhone. Isn't that cool? It's our friend Stuart. You can get zoom lenses. Look at that. I think it was $4 at a garage sale, so it's more of a prop. You can shoot yourself 3 times or have someone shoot yourself. So you can be in 3 places at once doing the video thing. So think about using your smart, this is the key, when you're traveling, you don't have to carry all that heavy gear. Of course, it depends where you're going, but think about that. And there's ways of using, our iPhone classes are now some of the most popular classes when we're traveling on the ships. You can see, I can't even keep up. I can't keep the slides up fast enough. What are the GoPro up to now? 10? 4? 6?
Yeah.
4, 6? I have no idea. But anyway, they're great little cameras. You can set them up, shoot time-lapse video, you know, and the animals just get really curious about it. So this is this time-lapse. And these are the sheath bills that are coming and getting, and then it regurgitates on my camera. And then in a second, they come back and then they just knock it over. So if you're going to do this, you got to think about who's going to, you know, I felt for Art Wolf what he's saying. I didn't know if a hyena was going to come and pee on my, you know, my time lapse or his long exposure at night. So yes, so there's a successful one, right? So, you know, there's ways of doing it, and time-lapse assembler. If you Google anything we say, you'll find everything that you need there. The whole thing with drones, though, drives me crazy because it's something new, and everybody wants to do it, and the regulations are coming, right? I mean, already in national parks, you can't fly them, right? We don't want you bringing them on the ships. They don't work around the ship's navigation systems, so they crash. So there's issues. So if you're going to use a GoPro, or use one of these quadcopters, think about your applications. So the questions that I get, these are the questions that I field from the internet all the time when people are writing me, you know, about the photo opportunities. Which camera should I bring? What other equipment do I need? What should my settings be? So it's easy. You know, you bring it all. You know, your camera, your backup. There's getting there with your gear. You know, I use wheels. I think that's the key to. Am I still middle age? I don't know. But that's when I knew I hit middle age. I went from a backpack to wheels. You know, knee pads, extra batteries, and things. Get organized. That's Jason who worked here at B&H when they came to the ship. So I've got a roller bag. I've got a shoulder bag, and I'm sort of. It's all legal stuff as far as the sizes. But I am so nice to the gate agents. Yeah. Being able to get at your gear in the field, you know, depends on where you're going. When you're traveling, you always can't just put down your camera bag and open it up and then leave it in the corner and go shoot, right? I mean, in nature you can do that, but if you know, we're not talking about street photography, but you've got to be able to get access to your gear. I showed this from the river trip, you know, being to protect your gear. Having even just those, I wish I would have invented them, those rain sleeves with the drawstrings, just a baggie with a drawstring. You get 2 of them for like, I don't know, $8. I have those stuffed everywhere. If it starts raining, you just slap those on. There they are right there. The other things I'd bring, and of course, you know, well, certainly the knee pads, but having a reflector or diffuser, depending on what you're doing, can help you. Having an umbrella, you'll be brilliant when it starts raining because you can keep shooting. Gary, are you here? There's Gary. He's here this week. The number one piece of equipment that most people neglect or don't have or left home is the lens hood. there's 3 excellent reasons to use a lens hood. One, it shields your lens from the stray sunlight, but you still sometimes, when sun hits the front element, it can blow out and you get all sorts of reflections and you lose all your contrast. So turning it around is a key. It can also protect from bangs and nicks and scrapes. I've dropped my camera I don't know how many times, and the lens hood has saved it. It'll crack and it'll break the fall. And then it keeps mist and dust off. And then if you have a filter that you can either shoot naked or you can put a filter, just a UV or a clear glass, and that can help protect your front lens elements. And always have a lens cloth. I mean, these are the basic things, but how many times do you see, we're cleaning our lenses with our shirts and things, and that's the way the pros do it, but and we don't use these filters either, because why spend all that money, even though I just told you to protect the front lens element, you spend $2,000 on this perfect glass, and then you buy a $25 filter and put it in front of all that glass. So at least buy the expensive, really good, like was it B&W or whatever, filters if you're going to do that. So that's all pretty obvious stuff. Do you really need your tripod? Yep. Do you use your tripod normally? Now you're going on the trip of a lifetime somewhere and you've never used your tripod? So most people hate their tripod, because if you're still going like that every time you put your camera on, you're never going to use your tripod. If you still use some of those companies where after a while they start flipping around, you'll never use your tripod. You want plates, you want quick release plates. There's other ways to get around. A lot of situations you don't need tripods anymore because you can push the ISO. You can use monopods. You can use these gorilla pods. You can't really see through them, but there are situations where if you can't bring in a big tripod, you can use these little tripods, and you can use bean bags. Typically what I do is I travel with the bucky bean neck thing, and I use it on the plane, and then I carry that with me when I need a bean bag, right? Tripod. So if you are going to look at the tripod out there at the B&H desk there, lightweight. There's great ones now that are like 3 pounds, get a good ball head. Really Right Stuff makes good ball heads. They're expensive, but they're not disposable like most of the tripods you usually buy are. All right, the quick release plates are key. The one filter still to have, it's still hard to fake, a polarizer. Yes, you can darken the sky and the channels in Lightroom and Photoshop, but it's hard to cut reflections in post-processing. That's the biggest thing. So you turn it. You guys all know this, right? So you can cut reflections. And then you turn it, and then you shoot it with and without. We get seduced by our filters, especially the polarizer. You think I should have my polarizer on everything. No, keep it in your camera bag, and then when you need it, you put it on it. You put it on the camera, and it's usually for reflections and darkening the sky with clouds. The other thing is, if you like to shoot macros and flowers and things, having a portable cloud, the diffusion filter, can extend your shooting time. Speaking of times, because shooting in this harsh light is kind of tough. So then you use the portable cloud, and so you go in. Because you heard that yesterday. I love the diffuse light for accentuating, saturating the colors and everything. What else? What should my settings be? Well, what are you taking a picture of? What's the background doing? What's the light doing, right? And this is the key. We're working on this. So there are different dials depending on where you're going, and you can pop the dial off and put it back on, and it's a joke. Does everyone get that? Okay, good. The creative triangle. Now, the thing about any of our workshops, and this talk in particular as well, you can not tell anyone how easy all this is, because we're going to lose all our business. There's only 3 things you have to know: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed, and how those work together. Any questions? So if you aren't into the more creative modes of aperture and shutter priority, how many people here shoot manual? Why? No, there are situations to shoot manual. But I am an aperture priority shooter. I am most concerned about my depth of field. That's one of the major creative controls. Yes, I'm going to fast enough shutter speed to hold it still if I'm going for sharp shots, right? But if you just want to go from the auto icons, and some of these cameras, those still, you got kids and pets, you've got birthday party, you've got snowman, and those all work. But you're not going to be, but that puts you into auto everything, white balance, ISO. And it doesn't know that you're standing on a moving ship. So even though you put it on Running Man, it might still drop your ISO to 50 because it's really bright out. So by going to aperture, so I teach mostly you go to aperture priority. And this was just on the internet. And even Daniel Peters, photo blog, I think it's some guy in Germany, I think. And this was like tweeted all around. There's the one picture that tells it all, right? So that's good. Slower shutter speeds, it gets blurry. Slower ISO or higher ISO, it gets grainy. And with more depth of field, it gets sharper, or you can diffuse the background. So the reason I go aperture priority is if I want to blur the background, I shoot shallow depth of field. Longer lenses, even in the Galapagos, I can get right up close on the animal, but if I want to blur the background, I'm actually going to step back and zoom in with a longer focal length to use the depth of field to my advantage, versus having a deep depth of field where everything's sharp, but then you can slow things down. You can do the starburst with the f/22, but you got to be able to control, so that's f/22 at 1,000th of a second, ISO 400, -1 in the exposure compensation. The one thing not on the triangle is how exposure works. If you're in aperture priority and you go from f8 to f11, have you changed your exposure? No, because the camera's going to set the shutter speed and keep the exposure the same. So there's that one other thing you need to know called exposure compensation, because when you shoot manual, what do? You look at the meter, right? And then you look at, and this is the way we used to do it in the old days with light meters. You'd look at what, stands out of them. You look at what is the neutral tone in the, right? That's why we had a gray card. You said neutral tone. The camera thinks the world is black and white and everything should be gray. So if you have something bright, it tries to make it gray, that's underexposed. The camera is doing that. If it's dark, it brings it up to middle gray, so it's overexposing things. So it's counterintuitive. Add light to light, darken down. And so that's what you need to know. For shutter speeds, fast versus slow, what do you need to stop a flying bird coming by? That's 5,000th of a second to stop this crazy red-billed tropic bird. Or shoots blurry. So the times I go to shutter priority on purpose is when I want to control the shutter speed, right? And I want to lock it in at the 15th of a second because I know flying birds that are close and they're flying at a slow speed that look best in 15th of a second. Water, this is where what's real in photography. Do we see this? No, but it's a nice effect. The split field neutral density filter, that's Jay Dickman. I still carry those. I use them a lot to balance, because the other thing about the cameras today, even in digital, can't handle extreme contrast from a bright sky to a dark foreground. So you either select shots that work, or situations where you've got to hold back the sky, typically with a graduated neutral density filter, 2-stop maybe. In the Grand Canyon you need 3-stop, and there's hard edge and soft edge. But you can do this in post and use filters. So this is what I want to leave you with. There are still a few things that are inherited from film that we carry: the polarizing filter, a neutral density filter, and a graduated filter. All right, I know you guys want to go buy popcorn. Thank you so much for your attention. We'll see you later.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.